Your very popular book, Donut Economics, highlighted the outer core, or the outer ring, which is the planetary boundaries that we don't want to exceed. And then the inner ring was the human needs for well-being, the things that we don't want to go below. And in it, talking about visuals and orthodox economics.
Oh my God, you can already tell this is gonna be bad, and she hasn't said anything yet!
What I was aiming to do in that book was to set out ways of thinking, right? It's principles of thinking that will then be adapted over time between different countries, that will be relevant differently in Malawi or Sweden.
And not, universal and non-contradictory, like real science.
But also that'll change over time as suddenly AI appears or as crises hit.
Yeah, 'cause that's always worked out so well in the past, hasn't it? I mean, we didn't have decades of bad economics foisted on us by someone who was just looking at the Depression or anything.
So, 7 ways to think. The first one, change the goal. The goal of 20th century economics was endless growth.
Oh, for the love of... Do I have to rebut that again? Or can I let that statement itself stand testament to this woman's incredible economic ignorance?
No, that is not a sufficient statement of what success looks like, and we know that endless growth actually takes us into a lot of problems.
7 ways of thinking. This woman doesn't even know one way of thinking, does she?
So we need... Here we go, the donut that you just described. A goal that says, leave no one falling short in the whole.
Yes, this is Kate Raworth, the woman behind Donut Economics. And if nothing else, I'm grateful to her for having the courtesy of putting the word nut right in the title.
But don't overshoot Earth's limits. Get everybody over the social foundation inside the ecological ceiling.
And now we're going back even further to Malthus. Any other solidly debunked figures you want to swipe your talking points from?
We want to meet the needs of all people within the means of the living planet. It's a goal that brings together human rights and ecological integrity.
All right, so you're seeing the problem here. She's trying to push goals into economics. Like all science, economics is descriptive, not prescriptive. Economics tells you the best way to make your goals a reality. It doesn't tell you what those goals should be. And she wants to push those on everybody from the top down, which has never worked and never can. And economic theory clearly explains why.
So, number 1, change the goal. 2, see the big picture.
Yeah, we've only spent something like 150 years trying to explain to people why economics means you shouldn't aggregate things and never lose sight of the individuals. She's like an even dumber Joseph Stiglitz.
All mainstream economics courses start with this little diagram, supply and demand. Now, that's a big act. To put supply and demand on the screen on day 1, it means we put the market at the center of our vision. It means we make price the metric of concern.
It means we face reality and try not to fall for bullshit.
And everything else that falls outside the price contract gets called an externality.
No, the lesson is how to deal with the externalities by internalizing them. I would accuse her of strawmanning the theory, but I don't think she's smart enough to understand it well enough to do that.
There are no externalities, as Herman Daly and others would say. Your model's just not big enough.
Herman Daly. Well, there's your problem. Daly was a Georgist. So yes, she's basing everything on ecological economics, which still hasn't realized, for example, the futility of Pigovian taxes that I've described several times in the past. He was also an economist with the World Bank if you needed his credibility degraded further. He's basically the central figure in steady-state economics, which is based on long-debunked wage fund theory, which I've also covered. It's based on the idea that there's just one big pie of resources in the economy that never grows or shrinks. You need to not go beyond your maximum population so resources don't get spread thin. You need to redistribute wealth evenly, and so on. So yeah, that's the basis of her ridiculous donut theory. And since all of this is just the first 3 minutes of the video, You can see for yourself how Brandolini's law has kicked into high gear.
So I drew a diagram. Here's my embedded economy diagram. Here you go. Let's see if we can show this. So this brings together ecological economics. It brings together complexity. It brings together feminist economics and commons thinking.
Yeah, you got all that? Had to bring in feminism and the commons too. And notice that her only energy input is solar. Not only is she against nuclear, I guess maybe she doesn't even like wind or hydro?
The economy is embedded in society, is embedded in the living world. It is a subsystem and utterly dependent upon it. But also the economy is made up not just of the market and the state, that very 20th century boxing match, the household, the space of unpaid caring work, typically done by women.
Wow, sexist much? In reality, economics is all about interactions between individuals. These false categorizations do you no good and only get in the way of understanding. The only categorization that matters is, are things being done by force or voluntarily? Because economics teaches us over and over and over again, if you do things by force, they're just not going to work out well for anyone. I'm going to let this next one go on a bit longer than normal so you can hear her in detail.
Number 3, nurture human nature. Who is humanity? How do we tell ourselves the story of who we are in this picture? The portrait of humanity in 20th century economics, this guy, here we are, he's framed. This is a rational economic man. I decided to draw him to make him visible. He would be a man, standing alone, no dependence. He's got money in his hand. He's got ego in his heart. He's got a calculator in his head. And he'd have nature at his feet. He hates work. He loves luxury. He knows the price of everything. The real problem with this depiction is that the more the students told, oh yes, this model is a sufficient model of us, actually, we start to mimic him. Students say over time they more value competition and self-interest over altruism and collaboration because they start to mimic the model. So who we tell ourselves we are shapes who we become. Instead of this rational economic man, we need to recognize we are first the most social of all mammals.
Yeah, so apparently economics, which is a social science, doesn't realize that we're social creatures. Even though the whole freaking point of economics is to explain human interactions with each other. Can we please get rid of this straw man that economics is about this perfectly rational person acting in a vacuum? Because it just isn't. One more thing. She's acting like everyone agrees socially on what's important, but we don't, and we're never going to. So how are we supposed to deal with all of these contradictory desires? Economics as it is tells us the way. Her economics doesn't.
Number 4, we've got to get savvy with systems. So instead of assuming the economy is in equilibrium, like that supply and demand curve showed us, recognize that it's almost probably never going to be there.
Again, no one says it is. It seeks equilibrium, but it's chasing a moving target in the dark. If you're going to try and insert your own model of economics into the science, is it really so goddamn much to understand what economics is to begin with?
It's a complex adaptive system. For this, my favorite shaped little donut springs into a complex adaptive system of interlinked dynamics, reinforcing feedback, balancing feedback, tipping points, delay, resilience, redundancy. That's the world of Donella Meadows.
Donella Meadows, for Christ's sake, she wasn't even an economist. She was an environmentalist who made the exact same Malthusian fallacy of assuming an upward limit to global consumption. How many times do the Malthusians have to calculate the maximum population only for us to blow right by it without blinking before people get the idea? Her book, The Limits to Growth, was debunked pretty much as soon as it was published. The New York Times called it a rediscovery of the oldest maxim of computer science: garbage in, garbage out. She mentions all sorts of simulations in the book, but apparently never bothered to actually do any, so researchers at the University of Sussex did. You can read about it at the link in the description if the Internet Archive manages to come back. Anyway, They found that her faulty assumptions led to numbers that were way too low. The book was published in 1972. It predicted a level of resource depletion and economic collapse by the year 2000. Obviously, that didn't happen, so the Malthusians are wrong again!
So think of it as a complex adaptive system that will ever be evolving. We can't control it. There's no levers to pull. The best we can hope for is to steward that system.
If it's so complex we can't control it, then how can we steward it? We can't do either one. That's exactly what F.A. Hayek was talking about in The Fatal Conceit when he said, "The curious task of economics is to demonstrate to men how little they really know about what they imagine they can design. To the naive mind that can conceive of order only as the product of deliberate arrangement, it may seem absurd that in complex conditions, order and adaptation to the unknown can be achieved more effectively by decentralizing decisions, and that a division of authority will actually extend the possibility of overall order. Yet that decentralization actually leads to more information being taken into account."
We've inherited a divisive economy that captures value and opportunity in the hands of a few. Here's the rise of the 1%.
Oh, don't even go there, you stupid woman!
We need to steward that system into a much more distributive economy.
Yeah, worked out so well for the Soviet Union, didn't it? And Venezuela, and North Korea, and a bunch of others I could and have mentioned. Seriously, there's not even any acknowledgement of how these concepts have completely failed before, let alone anything about how they'll suddenly work with her donut.
And then this takes us to the seventh principle, that what is the future of economic growth? What does the future look like? And kind of coming back to where we began, the presumption was economies would just keep growing forever.
No, it wasn't. Growth isn't what you socialist morons think it is.
What we really want are regenerative economies and distributive economies.
Of the kind that only created poverty and misery every single time they were tried.
And there might come some point, indeed, they probably have already come to it, especially in high-income economies where they need to grow up, right? Nothing in nature succeeds by growing forever.
Well, they're doing something right. Socialist economies can't even seem to keep growing a few decades.
It goes through a growth phase, and then it grows up and matures.
Instead of playing with your little pipe, why don't you tell us what it actually means? What is it you imagine that's going to plateau?
What would it mean to create economies that actually mature? Because if we don't do that, we're going to get that. We're going to induce collapse.
Your stupid theory is what'll induce collapse.
How can we bend? How can we bend this system so that it actually matures and grows up?
How about we not go around bending things, huh? Science should never be about imposing goals on everyone. It should just be about how reality works. When you start talking about goals, you're leaving the realm of economics and entering the arena of public policy. And public policy should never be mixed with economics. It's like mixing religion with biology. The result is never anything good. Whatever your goals are, science is there to tell you how best to meet them, but it should never be used to tell you what they should be to begin with.
So those are the 7 ways to think. And let me just say again, that's just 7. Those are the ones that became really clear and obvious to me. I bet there's more. And I offer people to keep adding to them.
We're talking about people using pseudoscience to try and find justifications for the policies they want to inflict on the rest of us. That's it. She's just another wannabe tin-pot economic dictator with all the smarmy arrogance that comes with it. So thanks for watching. Please hit like and subscribe, leave a comment, and go to donate.bogosity.tv to keep me doing what I do. And check out all the great content here, like this video selected just for you.